So in this video, I'm going to be showcasing pie menus for ZBrush. This is a new plugin that I've been working on. It's pretty simple. It's going to allow you to put brushes onto a pie menu. So you can see if I go to clay, we select the clay brush. If we go to standard, we go to standard. So let's have a closer look at the plugin. So as you might notice, there's 12 pie menus. And every pie menu has an edit button. So if we go to edit, this new window will pop up. And here we can browse through all the brushes that we have. We have our default brushes of ZBrush and our custom brushes. This is the custom brushes folder of ZBrush. So for example, if I want to make a new pie menu, I can just take these items, I'm going to delete them. Let's say I want to have the clay brushes. I'm just going to be dragging those on to here. And I'm going to close that. Now this automatically saves the pie menu. And then when we launch it, you can see we have our pie menu with the clay brushes. So I can go to clay, I can just start sculpting, clay buildup, clay tubes. And you can see it's just a really fast way of switching between brushes. That's not all, we can go ahead and edit this a little bit further. For example, what we can do is we can right click and we can say add item, let's say standard. Let's say these are brushes that we use a lot. Now I'm going to be going to the H polish. It's a brush that I love to use. I'm just going to drag it onto that. That's going to make it into a nested pie menu item. Let's also get the damn standard. And let's get the standard in there as well. Just for good measure, let's go ahead and add some more random brushes to it. Let's say something like this. Now if we click this away, you can see that right now we have a standard item. If I zoom out, you can see it a little bit better. You'll see that the standard has an outline around it. This means it's a group, a nested pie menu. So if we go to standard, right now you can see we have our items. You can have as many nested pie menu items as you want. And then we can, for example, take the damn standard. And you see we have the damn standard selected. We can also go to edit and we can reorder this. For example, if we want the standard to be on top, we can just take this and we can drag it to the top. We say clay and put this at the bottom. We can also say, okay, we're going to create another group. We can just take the clay tubes, for example, put it on the clay buildup and that will group it. And then we can double click this and we can, for example, call it clay. Now if we go here, you can see we have standard and clay with our brushes. So let's talk a little bit about how to actually use the pie menu. So what you want to do is at these buttons, these are the launch buttons. We can just bind the hotkey to it by Ctrl-Alt clicking it, just like any item in ZBrush. Then we can say Ctrl-Shift-C, for example, or any hotkey that you like. And then when you press the hotkey, the pie menu appears. And now when you release the hotkey, it disappears. So the way it works, for example, I'm holding the hotkey right now, and as soon as we release the hotkey, it's going to select the selected item. So clay tubes constant, I release, and we'll select. Now if we launch the pie menu, and let's say we go to standard, and right now we're like in idle mode, we don't have a selection, and now we release the hotkey, you will see that the brush won't switch. So my main goal of this plugin was an easy way of switching between brushes. For example, going to B and then the usual, for example, clay buildup, C, and like looking for it isn't very nice. So I just wanted a simple, fast, reliable way of switching brushes. The second goal of the plugin was to make something that looks nice and sleek. And also to add customization, so you can really personalize the look of it to make it feel like it's yours. So let's go ahead to the second part of the video where we talk a little bit about customization. So by default, the plugin comes with this. Just gonna move that to the side. Comes with this theme with the ZBrush orange, where we can adjust everything of the pie menu. For example, right here we can choose a theme. Again, by default, it just comes with one single theme, and we can create a new one. So if we press new, we can give this a name. For example, let's call this blue. Now if I click here, you can see we have our default theme and our blue theme. We can add as many as we want. Let's say we have green, purple and whatever, right? You can have as many themes as you want. If you want to rename, you can just rename it. Let's call this pink, for example. That will rename the theme. You can also delete themes and just delete it to get rid of it. So that's how you browse different themes. Now the important part, of course, is customizing the theme. So if we click Customize by Menu, this new window will pop up, and here we can start customizing the look of our pie menu. So we're just going to go over chapter and chapter. So let's start with highlights. This is like the highlighting color of the menu. So this is going to be like the main customization, I would say. Over here we have a window with a color selection. So for this one, let's go with like a blue theme. So I'm just going to pick a blue that I like. Also at any point, if you have a color that you like, you can just select it with the left mouse and you can drag it to one of these swatches. So I'm just going to drag it in there so we can reference it at a later point. I'm going to say, okay. Now we can adjust the intensity of the highlighting. I like to keep it very strong. Now let's go to the ring. The same thing for the ring, we can select a different color. Again, for example, we can pick this black that we have here or the blue that we referenced earlier. I think for this one, we're going to go with like a nice dark blue. Just going to put that here so we can reference it. Then we can change the thickness of the ring. Then we can also change the opacity of the ring. So if there's something like, if you want to see a model underneath the pie menu, you can make that slightly transparent. I'm going to make it slightly transparent. Then we have the menu item boxes. Same thing, background color. Just going to reuse the color that we used for the ring. Same thing, we have an opacity slider to choose if we want some transparency. Then we can move them further away from the ring. Just going to move them away a little bit further. Then we have text padding. This is how big the box will be around the text. Let's go with a smaller look for this one. Then we have the rounded corners. We can choose how rounded the corners are of the boxes. I like to have some nice rounded corners. So something like that. Looking pretty nice. Maybe we'll put the text padding up a little bit. Uniform scale. This will like, if we turn it off, the items will have like different sizes depending on the text. So for example, if we have a really long item, a clay build-up, a big brush name, for example, the box will be a lot bigger. And now for example, pie item 2 will be a lot smaller. So with this toggle, we can say, okay, make every box as big as the biggest one, or scale them individually. Menu item text, pretty self-explanatory. We can just change the color of the text. Let's make this like a nice blue. Over here, we can change the text font. First, let's go ahead and change the size of the text. Then let's mess around a little bit with the font. So we have a lot of different options. The easiest way to go through it is just select one. Then we can use the mouse scrolling wheel to select the next one in the list. And you can just mess with this and like look for one that you like. For example, this one's looking pretty cool. Let's do this one. Text opacity, again, you can just change how transparent that is and leave that to full. Animations. So if we select an item, you'll see that the corresponding part of the ring will grow. We can go ahead and turn the ring animation off. And you can see that it doesn't grow. Just going to turn it on. You can see that only the outside part of the ring expands. We can do both sides if we turn inner ring animations on. Now you can see that it just inflates. If we put the scale all the way up, you can see that it becomes bigger. If we turn it down, it becomes smaller. Same thing for the box animation scale. The bigger this is, the bigger the item gets when we highlight it. Animation duration is just how long does it take for the animation to reach the max size. Just keep this nice and short so it feels snappy. Drop shadow. Over here we can choose the shadow. For example, we can make it more transparent. We can make a greater distance. And then we can also go ahead and choose a color. Let's go with a nice dark blue for this. We can also turn on and turn off the shadow highlight. Right now you can see that the shadow doesn't get highlighted. If we turn it on, you can see that it gets highlighted. Then finally we have some advanced settings. One that's going to be pretty important is the enter group delay. The smaller this is, the faster we enter a sub pie menu. For example, if we put this all the way down, if pie item 1 is a group, we go on it, you instantly enter the group. If we put this all the way up, it will take like a few seconds until we actually go into the group. So you have time to just kind of go like this, and if you want to go into the group, you just keep it selected for a bit and we'll go inside it. I personally like to keep this all the way down. You can mess with the angle of the pie menu, get different rotation, fade in out duration. When we launch the pie menu, it has like a slight fade in animation. If we put this all the way down, like the pie menu will just appear out of nothing. If we put this all the way up, it will have like a longer fade in animation. We can also go ahead and disable those animations altogether. Allow no selection is, if we toggle that off, is we cannot like exit the pie menu without selecting a brush. So when we leave, we'll always have like something highlighted. I don't recommend to turn that off, because right now when we're like inside the ring, we have nothing selected, and we can go ahead and exit the pie menu without changing the brush. So that's it for customizing your themes. Just gonna click that away. Now you can see when we launched our pie menu, it has this nice blue theme that we set up. So if we want to switch between different themes, all that we have to do is just click here. And for example, we say let's go back to default. Now we have our default theme back and blue. So you can make as many themes as you want. Also feel free to share themes with other users, or if you ever want to export them to use later, we can go ahead to browse and we can say the themes folder. Just going to go ahead and open up the folder where your themes exist. And you can see we have our blue, default and green. So let's click that away. The last thing that I want to discuss really quick is if we go to pie menu and we say edit. If we go to custom brushes, the way that we can add brushes to our custom folder is very simple. We just go to custom brushes. This is going to open up the folder with our custom brushes. As you can see, that's just the default. See startup brush presets. So any brushes that you have that are like custom brushes that you want to put on a pie menu, just make sure that you put them in this folder. Let's say pie menu 10 we'd like to make to a polygroup pie menu. I'm going to go ahead and edit this. Just going to delete everything. I'm going to say add item. Let's say auto groups. Auto with UVs. The name doesn't matter, you can name it whatever you want, just do something that's clear to you. So now the important part is going to be the button pad, because ZBrush needs to know what we want to press. That's tool, poly groups, and auto groups. Just going to go ahead and copy this. I'm going to paste that all over here. It's important that you match the name of the button pad one by one. You cannot have any difference in it at all. Otherwise ZBrush won't know what you want to press. Now this is a little bit annoying to do. In the future, I'm going to go ahead and release an update where we have all the button pads included in the plugin. Will be somewhere over here like button pads, so we can just browse through that nice and easily. But that will be quite a big effort, because this is the only way to get them. You need to do it all by hand, so it will take some time to get done. Also, I'm just going to go ahead and take one. I'm going to mess up the name on purpose of the button pad. Now we can go ahead and close that. Just going to go ahead and put a hotkey on that, for example B. Just gonna go ahead and make a more complicated mesh. Okay. So now when we go to our polygroup pane menu, we can see we have all these options. So we can say auto groups, and you can see it will do auto groups. We can do group visible, it will do group visible. Now, if you remember, grouped masked, we messed up the name on purpose. So when we do that, it will say ZBrush path does not exist, and will tell you the path that it's trying to press. You can see that we made an error in the button path. So now we can go ahead and edit that. We can just go ahead and fix that. Now if we go ahead and make a mask, we do group masked, you can see that we do a group mask. Again, like I said, eventually I'll include all the button paths in the plugin, but it will take quite some time to add them. In the meantime, if you really want to, you can just go ahead and set them up manually. And really quick, to get any button path of ZBrush, you can just go to a button, you can say Control, hold that down, and it will give you the pop-up info. And there you can see the button path. For example, for this one, this tool, subtool, duplicate. So if you do want to have the plugin, I'm going to link it down in the description so you can go ahead and pick it up. Also, if you have any suggestions for new features or whatever, you can go ahead and join the Discord and you can make any plugin suggestions that you want.